evening, and actually, hold on a moment. Because that light was on, right?
Yeah, are we on?
Okay, we are on that, okay. Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the City of Morgantown Board of Zoning Appeals. Please turn off all cell phones or other devices that may disrupt these proceedings. It is the duty of this board to consider requests for relief from the requirements of the city's zoning regulations, to consider conditional use permit requests, and to hear administrative appeals. The board conducts business in the following order: review, amend, and approve minutes of a previous meeting. We'll then move to unfinished business, take up new business, and conclude with announcements from staff. Each request is heard in the order that it appears on the agenda. For each conditional use and variance request, the following is done. I will introduce the agenda item, and the Planning Division will present a staff report which may or may not offer a recommendation. The applicant agent will be asked to present their justification for their request, which may include questions by members of the board. I will then open a public hearing to hear testimony in support of or in opposition to the request. Rules regarding public testimony are as follows. Anyone wishing to testify during the public hearing may do so once recognized by me, or may, in lieu of oral testimony, submit written testimony to the chair. All recognized speakers must approach the podium, state their name and address for the record, and speak clearly into the microphone. All comments must be addressed to the board, should be relevant to the application, and may not be of a personal nature or personal attacks. All speakers will be limited to 5 minutes. If members of the board have any questions of the speaker, that time will not be counted toward her 5 minutes. If there is a large number of speakers, including many who are part of groups or organizations, I may, to avoid repetitive comments, elect to ask for a representative to speak on behalf of the group or organization. Speakers are notified that irrelevant comments or comments of a personal nature or personal attacks may result in the speaker forfeiting his/her opportunity to participate in the public hearing. I may elect to recognize the applicant agent at the end of the public hearing to provide rebuttal or additional comments, which will be limited to 5 minutes. If members of the board have any questions of the applicant agent, that time will not be counted toward his/her 5 minutes. After all testimony is heard, I will declare the public hearing closed and no further comment. Public comment will be permitted. Uncivil, unruly, or disruptive behavior at any time during this meeting is prohibited and will result in removal from the public meeting. State law requires the board to consider findings of fact for each conditional use and variance request. The request cannot be granted unless a majority of the quorum present finds in the positive of all of the findings of fact. The board may elect to continue the hearing to another date if it needs additional information. Applicants and requesting parties will be notified in writing by the Planning Division of the board's findings and conclusions. Regardless of whether a request is approved or denied, decisions of the board can be appealed to the Circuit Court of Monongalia County within 30 days upon receipt of the written notification. Any work done relating to decisions rendered by this board during this 30-day period is at the sole financial risk of the applicant. Thank you for your consideration and respect for these proceedings and the opinions of all meeting participants. Let's call roll. Ms. Heidi Cook.
Here.
Mr. Plyler is absent. Mr. DeWitt?
Here.
Our alternate, Ms. Felt, is not in attendance. Mr. Venison is present, and we would like to note that we do have a quorum. So let's consider the meeting minutes. From December 18, 2024, any comments? Issues? So I move to accept the meeting minutes from our regular December 18, 2024 meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
How do we vote? Do we vote to approve?
Approve.
Or
Yep.
accept?
Aye.
The meeting minutes from the December 18, 2024 meeting have been accepted for the record. We don't have any old business, so moving to new business, our first case this evening is VAR 24-184, Tony Vincent for 1200 Douglas Avenue, request by Tony Vincent on behalf of Luann Massioli for variance relief from section 1333.04 of the city's planning and zoning code regarding setbacks, city tax district 15 in the 7th ward, tax map 6, parcel 35.4 in the R1 single family residential district.
For variance 24-184, the applicant seeks to build a covered deck on the rear of a single-family dwelling. If you look up there, that's the parcel and kind of where it's located relevant to the neighborhood. This shows the kind of presented designs for the variance of the deck. The left design is kind of looking out it without the roof. That's the layout of the deck, the length, the width. The second image is kind of more of what it would look like with it being roofed, to fill up the parameters of it. Based on the conditions listed above, the applicant requests the following. Variance relief in the form of 19 feet in reference to a minimum rear setback requirement. And that concludes staff report.
I didn't see any city recommendations on this one.
No, later on, yeah, there will be no recommendations to changes or anything. There is a conditional to it, which is just the standard conditional of if variance relief is given, then any other modifications or changes will need to either return to the BZA if they need variance, or it will be reviewed by the city of Morgantown.
And it's just the setback, it's not with regard to, if it is enclosed, the height of the enclosed.
Yeah, it's, so the reason that they need variance is if this was a normal deck that wasn't covered, they would be able to go within 5 feet of their property line, but when you cover a deck, it kicks it up to principal building standards for setback purposes. So it needs 25 feet. They want to put it 6 feet, meaning the difference is 19. And because it's enclosed is what's causing it to seek variance. If it wasn't roofed, then it wouldn't need it. Everything else is permitted.
Right. So roof, no, aside from the roof, the edge of the deck, it's still within 6 foot of the
Correct.
rear setback.
And what's the overhang on the roof?
1 foot.
The height of it being roofed is fine, because it's based off the house, as long as it wouldn't be above, I think it's 2.5 stories, then that would be an issue, but since it's single-family residence without like a second floor, it's not a concern for height purposes.
Okay.
We're talking about the letters.
Maybe we'll reference that as part of the public hearing.
Okay.
Did you want to comment on that?
I'm asking you what you thought.
So we have 2 pieces of correspondence with regard to this case, right?
Correct.
Okay. Why don't do we have a representative for this case?
Mr. Chair, good evening. My name is Mitch Moore. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Steptoe & Johnson. I represent Luann Massioli. Make no mistake about an attorney being in the room tonight. This is not a legal situation. Our firm has represented Mrs. Massioli in the past, and when she found out there's a hearing going on, she called our office and asked us to come down. Mrs. Massioli is a senior citizen. She's having trouble getting out of her home, so she asked us to come down and speak on her behalf. Mr. Chair, your points are exactly correct. The project that was designed in this situation is within the original footprint of the deck that's been on the rear of the house for the last 40 or so years. She contracted with Mr. Vincent to build this project, and then we've got patch, repair, and install who's assisting in the completion of the same, who's here to speak to the board about any questions they might have about the design. I know that Mr. Reeder has already spoken up about those questions. My purpose here tonight is just to speak to you and ask that the variance be requested. To your point, it's within the same footprint. It's not impacting any of the setback any more so than it was previously, except for that there's going to be a roof put on it. It's not in excess of the height requirements for a dwelling. The only other point that I would make, I heard Mr. Thompson mention a minute ago, and it may have just been my misunderstanding of what he said. The chair asked whether or not there was a recommendation from the staff, and I heard from where I sat that there was no recommendation, but as I read the packet, it was that there was no objection from the staff to the variance being requested. So, I can speak to some of the issues if the board would like to, with respect to the factors that the board is going to have to find in order to grant the variance. But if the board has any questions, I'm happy to answer those just the same.
In terms of like the watershed coming off of it, and catchment, like what's being done to handle the excess? Like, is it going to run off in the neighboring properties, or how's it being handled, and where's it going?
Sure, and I would defer that to Mr. Reeder, and I think he's got an
Excess
understanding.
water will be 5-inch gutters that'll be ran back into the actual existing gutter system, and then ran back to the actual drainage system that runs to the whole drainage of the property.
Could we have you take the stand
Yeah.
when you speak, if you guys could
Sure.
switch, if that's
Just because
okay?
it'll be on the microphone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. So just please approach and state your name and address, especially if it differs from the referenced address.
How you doing? Patches Reader with Patch Repairs and Installs Contractor.
Yeah, can you speak to or restate what?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're actually, they're going to run 5-inch gutter. Usually, most of the time it's 5-inch gutter on residential. It'll run back into the original gutter system of the home, which has already connection into the drainage.
So you're going to redirect drainage?
Yeah, the
From the
actual
front of the
gutters-
home?
What's that?
Then, are you going to redirect toward the front?
Well, it always already runs into the drainage system of the home itself, which I think the drainage does run into the front of the sewage of the home itself, so everything would run into that original sewage system. So the water runoff.
Right.
Okay. I'm just kind of speaking towards one of these letters that we received that says that, the water would go off into the neighbor's property.
Yeah. No, I think the biggest thing, the reason was there, and I wasn't the one that did the project of putting the rock in there, so there was another contractor there that did some landscaping stuff.
Okay.
Originally, the water would run off a bankment there because there's a house that lives above the area there, and there was a little bit of a water drainage problem. So the contractor, which I was there when he was doing it, but he actually put a drainage pipe across the barrier wall there and rocked it in and actually connected it to the sewage.
So it's like a French drain
There was
system?
a French drain that ran all the way across the back because the water was running directly down across into the road.
Okay. All right. That's all the questions I had about the drainage. Thanks, Patches.
And if I may, before the board votes, I only saw the one correspondence that was included in the packet, signed by somebody who wouldn't provide their name to show up at the public hearing. So I'd ask that the board give that correspondence no weight in its decision-making process.
Well, we do have to take it under advisement, though.
Sure, understood. That fully makes sense. But what I would say is, as the finders of fact in this situation, I'd ask that you consider those who came before you and spoke on this question, afford the weight of an anonymous letter that which it deserves. But
Right.
I thank you for your time.
I mean, I think this also addresses something separate to what some of the complaints are addressing, like in terms of like building permits that they mentioned. I
Right.
don't know anything about that, and
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the process that we're trying to go through here in this situation, and do everything by the book and above board, and obtain the appropriate permits, and get the project completed in an appropriate timely manner.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And do you want to speak to I mean, that's kind of outside our scope.
right, that's what I'm saying, it's not.
Yeah, I didn't reference it mostly because of that, but to give the context for it, the kind of bottom line was that the original work, an inspector found that they were working without a permit. We contacted them and informed them of the process of how to go through it, and then as they are going through it, this is when the variance came up, and we're having them just go through the normal procedures of getting a variance, and then the building permit will be reviewed based on the hearing. But yeah, the references in the letters talking about working without a permit did occur, and when we found out about it, we contacted them and have been working to get a permit through the system to get it approved. Work has stopped since that has happened.
That satisfies me. My biggest concern was how the water is being handled, and if it's all going back into the sewage or the storm water, then that's the biggest issue. What do you think?
Public hearing.
Yeah, well, do you have any other questions?
Not right now.
Okay. Thank you. We're going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in support of or in opposition to this case, now is your opportunity to do so. And again, this is for VAR 24-184, Tony Vincent, 1200 Douglas Avenue. Anyone? Seeing no one, we're going to close the public hearing. We do want to note that there are two items of correspondence that do appear to be in opposition to the case. So you don't have any, but the drafters of said correspondence are not present to speak further.
I mean, I addressed this thing.
Yeah.
Right. And then, I mean, with regard to the permit, to the building permit issue, planning doesn't have to weigh in on that.
We're a part of the workflow. It would go through code, planning, and engineering, those departments.
Possibly MUB.
Yeah,
for
MUB as
water
well.
right
Yeah,
there
MUB
also,
would go
yeah.
through it. Those are the big four that I can think about, and all of those different groups would look at the building permit, review it, see if it's up to each different standard. MUB would look at the water concerns. For planning purposes, we look at setbacks and usually things related to that. So during my review, once they got the permit in, when I was reviewing it, that's when the setback came up, and that's why they're at the hearing today for that. Code would check for stability and, to make sure it's properly constructed. And engineering would do similar. So those would be part of it.
As construction, as the project plays out, there'll be
We do
subsequent visits.
an inspection. Yeah, there'll be an inspection by code at the end, and I do believe that they do it maybe during it as well. Where an inspector, one of the housing inspectors, would go to the property and inspect the work that they're doing, and then also as well the finished work to make sure that it's in line with what they've submitted with us.
Is the woman you're representing the only woman who lives in that resident?
Her son lives with her sometimes, yes.
Okay.
She's a widow.
Okay.
And can you speak to the reason for enclosing the deck
Come
area?
up to the podium.
Yeah, please approach.
And to answer Mr. DeWitt's question, just on the record in front of the microphone, it is just Mrs. Micholi. Her son resides with her sometimes, but she's a widow. The reason for enclosure is essentially twofold. Number one, she's reported that she's got a sun allergy. She's got some issues with the ability to sit outside in direct sunlight, so she wanted to enclose the porch area. Mrs. Micholi is also aging, and so she enjoys time outside. She's also going to put a fireplace in back there, so she's going to be able to enjoy that space as sort of a warmer spot to sit out in the spring and the summer. And I'll also submit to the board that her property abuts up against townhomes behind it, and so it adds an additional level of privacy for the home.
Oh, so those are townhomes so when this overhang, what property is it encroaching on? Is it townhomes or is it?
The overhang itself is not encroaching on any property other than the setback.
Okay.
Right, so it's still on her own parcel.
Right.
And if I might approach.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's all right.
So these are photographs during construction. And so what the board will see is once that frame goes up for that roofing, it's just going to hang out
Yeah.
over into this area that's her own yard.
Sure.
The townhomes that I referenced are over behind the privacy fence that's been constructed previously.
So there's just some like disgruntled neighbors that are having some issues here, is that?
To be honest with you, Mr. DeWitt, the first time that I heard that there was going to be any objection was when Mr. Thompson passed out the packets and I read the letter. We've not had anybody show up at the door, knock and say this is a problem. And, you know, you run into a situation where you're a widowed older woman, you're sitting on your porch, there's somebody lives behind you that you don't know, they're renting these townhomes or they're short-term purchasers of the townhomes. She's just looking for a little bit of privacy. But there's been no conflict that I can report. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And the notifications have gone out, so
Yeah.
it's not as if
That's right.
those in the immediate vicinity haven't had ample opportunity.
Right. And they're going through the permit process now, and this is why we're here, so this is fine.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And what I'll also say on the record is, to the extent that there's any question about this permitting issue or working without a permit, neither of the gentlemen who are in the room with me tonight were part of that issue. And so the folks that have spoken to you this evening were not part of any of those issues. And we're looking to, myself included, rectify any problem that may have happened before and make sure that this project is completed in accord with city code, to the extent that this board will grant a variance.
That works for me. Thanks, sir.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank
So I thank you for providing this picture.
Yeah.
It provides excellent context. So there's vegetation, there's
Yeah,
the
there's
privacy
plenty of room,
fence. I mean, really the issue is, well, okay, so
That's the facts.
with regard, let's move to the findings of fact. I think we really need to, which one would it be? It's not really numbered, but the finding of fact, so it looks like it's paginated as, it's not really, well, it reads, the variance will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, or the rights of adjacent property owners or residents, because, I mean, I agree with roof is off property lines by 6, there's vegetation, there's a privacy fence. I think maybe, given the correspondence, we should maybe think about striking all neighbors have agreed.
Yes, definitely.
That phrase from,
Well, this one states that she's not a neighbor. Like, I think it's adjacent properties is what it looks like.
well, but, or at least change all to some.
Yeah.
Because we do have the correspondence.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
If that's what the board wants to do, then yeah.
Yes,
So,
to make it a, yes.
Vote a change on it, and then also just.
Let's use
Maybe
some.
we could change
Some,
all
it's
to
easy.
some, and then also we could note the presence of the privacy fence and the vegetation mitigating.
If you want to,
Visible.
you can just strike all and just say neighbors have agreed, the people that would, oppose aren't here, and, yeah.
So what would like to be edited? All to some, and then is there a specific additional addition, like a sentence that says something along the lines of taking into consideration of a privacy fence? There
Yeah,
would
and
be
vegetation.
Minimal, in vegetation, there'd be
Yes.
minimal conflict. Would that be
Yeah.
acceptable?
Work to, especially since it's just a single story, the vegetation and the privacy fence
It's a pretty high.
work to mitigate
The presence
physical-
of a privacy fence and vegetation mitigates a concern?
mitigates
It's the visual.
visual impacts of the proposed single-story structure.
And the message about water, I mean, it's not an issue at all, so. Yeah. And, yeah, this is helpful.
And even getting a permit, they may not have known they were in a permitted area. They may, he said she was older, feeling sick. I've had it happen myself. I missed getting a permit, and I was like, oh my God. Anyway, so I understand that.
Right.
And then went and got it and was fine.
Yeah. And they're working with the city's working with them.
Yeah.
I don't know that not having the structure constitutes a hardship the proposed project does represent a reasonable use of the land, though. Do we want to speak to that? I mean, there really isn't a hardship here.
I mean, the hardship maybe is that she's old, she wants to go outside.
And the
She's-
sun
and
allergy.
the sun allergy, you know, that would be the hardship. And then the neighbors being like town
Not
homes
being able to
and
get
wanting some
out.
privacy.
Any other, are we comfortable with the other findings of fact? I think,
Yes.
okay. Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I move that we accept the findings of facts as amended.
I'll second that motion.
So we have a motion to accept the findings of fact for this case, VAR 24-184, and we have a second to accept those findings of fact. How do we vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We've voted to accept the findings of fact. Do we have a, and we do want to know, Mr., no conditions.
Yeah, there was one.
Yeah, there was one condition, being variance relief is only given in reference to the section mentioned previously.
Oh, that's right.
Yep.
Of the city's planning
Right
and
here.
zoning code, and then if any other further modifications or changes to the site plan,
Right.
they need to be compliant with city code, and if they are not, then they will be asked to return to the BZA
Right.
to request a
So I
variance.
can do that.
So there is one condition we want to just mention, that it's referenced on page 7 of this section of the meeting packet for VAR 24-104, or 184, excuse me. So I make a motion to grant the setback variance request
With the condition.
with the condition referenced on page 7 of the meeting packet.
I second.
We have a motion to grant variance, seconded by Ms. Cook. How do we vote?
I approve.
Aye.
Aye.
So we have granted your variance. You will receive written notification from planning, generally 7 to 10 business days, and then just keep in mind that any work that you or your client undertakes in the 30-day appeals window, because it can be appealed to the Circuit Court of Montague County, you or your client, you do that at your sole financial risk. But thank you for coming down this evening. Good luck with your project.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so next case is VAR 24-187, Stephen Zalehi, 215 Don Knotts Boulevard, request by Stephen Zalehi on behalf of Megacorp for variance relief from section 1369 of the city's planning and zoning code regarding conditions for permitted signs, City Tax District 9, First Ward, Tax Map 49, Parcel 25.2, in the B2 Service Business District.
There is staff report first. We'll call for you. The applicant seeks to install a monument sign on the reference property above. This monument sign is 9 feet tall and takes up 90 square feet of space. That's the reference property in regards to variance 24-187, shown there with a star. And that's kind of the submitted position of where the sign will go. On the right side is kind of the show of the rendering of what the sign will look like. An additional note is that the kind of enclosure for it, the pillars on the left and right, and the base is pre-existing. The sign cabinetry is what's is being added to this. It's just empty currently. And, all right. Based on the conditions listed above, the applicant requests the following: variance relief in the form of 3 feet in reference to the permitted sign height, as well as variance relief in the form of 58 square feet in reference to permitted size of signs. That concludes staff.
So just for area.
Correct. 58 square feet of area and then 3 feet in height.
Okay.
3 feet additional height.
Yep.
Is there any view of like how that will impact, pulling out, or it doesn't look like it's going to inhibit any sort of visual from the road?
No, it's far enough back for like vision triangle reasons. Basically, with engineering, they're good in regards to that.
All right. So we do have a representative.
Yeah, Steve Zellahay of Advanced Sign Company, 2121 Robinson Boulevard, Pittsburgh, PA 15221. I also brought a small presentation for you guys.
Okay.
So I'll run right through this.
Thank you.
Should take under 5 minutes. But maybe.
Thank you very much.
All right, first page, going into this, today we're reviewing replacement signage for this multi-tenant commercial property. That first page on there, these are the more recent conditions of the sign. The images to the left are older from 2023. Here we see the cabinet that was in the cavity has been displaced and fallen behind the sign base. And to the right, there's a more recent image showing the banner that is now installed in that cabinet.
It actually fell out?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. The next page, these are the drawings of the proposed replacement cabinet on top of the last base. The next slide, please. Those are just the structural drawings of the cabinet itself.
So it actually fits inside the existing frame, it's just the arch that goes up, and that's the 3-foot variance you're looking for, the arch of this mega.
I think the whole thing already was oversized.
Okay.
It's just that we're just replacing, we went there, we measured the cabinet that was on the ground, we just took that.
Also, the existing cabinet was outside of code, and so we're just trying to get it.
Back.
Right back. in.
Yeah,
place.
we're trying to.
Gotcha.
Just put a replacement cabinet
So
there.
basically, your current design, you're just designing it around what's already there.
Yeah.
In other words.
Yeah.
If it's all right if I interject as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
According to non-conforming sign standards, if the cabinet is either 50%, like the cost to replace it, if it's 50% more than that, or if it's a total change of the cabinetry, is why it was kicked out of non-conforming status, and why, even though it fell out, since that cabinetry containing the sign is being replaced, it lost that non-conforming status, which is why it's here, to give a little bit of the background for it. So, yeah, because it fell out, and to replace it, because it was non-conforming previously,
Yeah.
they would need a variance to do that construction.
Did they have a variance previously to install the whole sign?
Not to my knowledge. We, I believe, reached out to the applicant to see if they did, but the sign that was there previously existed for, I believe I at least went back to like 2013 to see if it was still there, and based off, like, it predates 2013.
Do we know who built that other cabinet, so like?
No, I have no idea.
Just curious.
After those structural drawings, the next slide has the proposed placement. Please note that we're 25 feet from the roadway. After the placement, there's the next slide after that. In relationship to the variance, we believe that there are conditions that were not created by the number of property owners, Burns and Scalo. One being the oversized sign, the sign and sign base that came with the property. They found that the sign was erected sometime in 2005, and that the sign had fell at some point in 2023. No variance records have been found by these property owners or by Morgantown via a Freedom of Information Act request. Next item would be the area is on a slope downward from the cartway, and that any sign that on that property or in the line of properties would have to be elevated so they could be seen from the roadway.
Okay.
Also, in regard to code 1369.11.b, it reads a sign is to be maintained properly and kept in good condition, for which the sign is in need of such maintenance. Next slide. This shows the interstate regulations under code 1359.02.f require signs to be set back at least 15 feet from the interstate, for which we comply. And from the images that you see there, we think that the sign would have minimum to no impact to traffic. The next one, or the next slide, please, that is key takeaways. This would include the property's irregular topography, relationship to the road, that the sign is in accordance with other sign and setback regulations, and that there is an enlargement being requested. And to conclude, that we understand that we are replacing a nonconformity, but we believe that request to install the sign as designed should be considered as a like replacement, and should not change the characteristic of the district if this permit was granted, as it has in the previous years it has existed.
And then you're not increasing the height of the piers to either side that will
No, we're gonna
You're
be
just
covering
dropping
some
the
of that
panels.
with like the little flared edges.
Right.
Like, but that's about it.
But you're basically dropping a new panel
Yeah,
into
just
what's...
just a brand new cabinet that fits inside the sign base. Like I said, we base it off of the other sign cabinet.
Looks like it has like one more foot of vertical clearance than the other one did, just because the other one was flush, this one's got a little arch, but again, I think it looks kosher to me.
Pretty straightforward.
Do you need illumination or anything?
There will be an illuminated cabinet, yeah. There are LED sticks that will be running through it. Yeah, LED sticks. will be-
Were there previously, was the previous one lit?
I didn't ask that question. I'm sure it was probably fluorescent bulbs, as most old cabinets are.
Gotcha. So we're going LED.
Yeah.
Do we need
If
to...
there's already power there, I'd say it was.
Oh, okay.
There's already power. Gotcha.
That makes sense.
I just want to note, as per page 4, the requested variances are aerial. Should we be referencing illumination?
No, it's not, it wouldn't. They're allowed to have internally illuminated signs in that district, so
Right.
it shouldn't
No
hold
purview.
any particular sway.
I mean, so the hardship would be, do we end this part, and then we talk about that?
Yeah, do you have anything else to...
No doubt that.
Do you have any questions?
That's
No, I
my
don't.
spiel.
Okay. I think we're all set for now, Mr. Zlady. So,
The hardship is that they're required to maintain the health of the sign, and the sign's fallen over, so in order to do so, they have to...
that is, yeah, that's a
Variance, yep.
hardship. They're having to work around, yeah.
So I think that makes sense to approve that hardship, or accept the findings of fact.
And, wait a minute, let me just see. So one of the findings of fact does reference, there are no impacts to
Sightlines.
sightlines or residential property, but we do want to just point out that it's in the B2 Service Business District. Thank you for the nod to residential properties, but
It's okay.
yeah, it's fine. Do you have any?
No, not at this
Okay.
time.
Let's go ahead and open the public hearing then. We're going to open the public hearing for this case, VAR 24-187, Stephen Zalehi, 215 Don Knotts Boulevard. Anyone wishing to speak in support of or in opposition to this case, now is your opportunity to do so. Seeing no one, we're going to close the public hearing. Any other questions?
No, it's pretty
concerns?
straightforward.
Okay. I'm going to make a motion to accept the findings of fact for VAR 24-187.
I will second that motion.
We have a motion to accept the findings of fact for this case, seconded by Mr. DeWitt. How do we vote?
Aye.
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 Do we have a motion to grant the variance for this case?
Yeah, I move we grant the variance to V24-187 in regards to signage variance.
I'll second that.
We have a motion to grant the variance for VAR 24-187. We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 We have granted your requested variance. You will receive written notification from planning 7 to 10 business days. Please keep in mind that the decision that we have rendered can be appealed to the Circuit Court of Montague County, and that's a 30-day appeals window. Any work that you undertake during that appeals period, you do at your sole financial risk. Thank you very much for coming down this evening.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, next case is, let's see, VAR 24-QUE Woodward Development, 11 Hartman Run Road, and this is, looks like a...
Hunter's Way.
Oh, I'm sorry. VAR 24-196, Robert Nasuti, Hunter's Way, thank you. Request by Robert Nasuti on behalf of Taco Bell for variance relief from Section 1369 of the city's Planning and Zoning Code regarding conditions for permitted signs, City Tax District 14 in the 6th Ward, Tax Map 44A, Parcel A, the B2 Service Business District.
For variance 24-196, the applicant seeks to develop the referenced property above into a Taco Bell restaurant. The applicant is requesting an additional menu board sign in addition to the permitted amount. The site will also have a post and panel sign of a 100 square foot area that is 30 feet tall. What's on the screen up there is just the reference kind of site showing where the development will be. This shows the site layout, kind of the plan of it, and it's a little hard to see in here, but in the packet, there is a 18 near the kind of top right corner based off this, and that's where that sign will go, as well as the attached kind of key that just kind of goes through and says the different parts of the site plan. The third image, that's just the standard design of their menu board for reference of what the additional menu board would look like. And then the final one is the design for that post and panel sign that will go there. The one here shows being 25 feet by 14 and a half feet. This is not accurate to the scale that they're requesting. This is just to show the design of what the sign will look like. And I'll reference that later in the conditions that if this is approved conditionally, they will have to submit a design showing the correct measurements. But the overall design of it, from what it looks like visually, will not be allowed to change other than tenants will just be replaced with a standard message board type sign for lettering. But the general design of how it will look will be the same based on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Based on the conditions listed above, the applicant is requesting the following. Variance relief in the form of one additional menu board sign allowance, as well as variance relief in the form of that 24 feet in reference to the permitted height of this post and panel sign, as well as variance relief in the form of 68 square feet for area in reference to the permitted post and panel sign size.
What does the city have to say about this one?
Uh,
Do they have any recommendations?
Please, as customary with signed variance petitions, there will be no recommendations being submitted by staff concerning whether variance relief should be granted. If the Board of Zoning Appeals does grant the applicant variance relief from the reference sections, the new addition shall be subject to the following conditions, being an accurate sign design showing 30 feet in
What page are you
height.
on? Excuse me.
That's 8.
8, okay,
Yeah.
got it. I see it.
Showing 30 feet in height and a total of 100 square footage. This will have to be made available for review and approval by the Development Services Department staff, as well as if any other modifications or changes to the site plan, they need to be compliant with the city's Planning and Zoning Code, or the applicant shall seek variance relief from the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Thank you. All right, do we have a representative for this case?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Dan Andrus with the Eads Group. We're the civil engineering consultants for Summerwood Corporation. And like Saylor said, we're requesting those variances for the menu board sign. I'll start with the menu board sign. The reason for the additional one is we're providing a double drive-through, so each one would need its own individual menu board. And as you know, with fast food restaurants, pretty much the double drive-through is the new standard. And that's where they get the vast majority of sales through drive-throughs.
So this is for the second lane?
It is for the second lane, so there'll be a menu board for each lane.
Why is it 24 feet high?
That is not 24 feet high. The height of the menu board meets the height. It is only 6 feet.
Oh, okay, that's
Okay,
something I
what's the
saw.
other one?
Did you
6
did you
feet, 2
have the
inches
same
high.
confusion? 'Cause
The max allowable height of the menu board is only 6 feet, so we're requesting an additional 2 inches.
Gotcha.
Okay.
That's just, Taco Bell standard sign height is 6
Why am I
feet, 2
getting
inches.
24 feet?
It might give additional, help for larger vehicles as well.
Okay.
As for
on this page, it's
the
referenced
post and
there.
panel
Okay.
sign, that is the
Gotcha,
request for
thank
an
you.
additional 24 feet. A post and panel sign's only allowed 6 feet, which at this site, the elevation of the roadway at Route 7 is approximately 10 feet higher than the ground elevation of the site. So even a permitted sign wouldn't be visible from the state route.
Oh, okay.
So that's the main reason why we're
Topography.
requesting a height increase of 24.
Okay.
Thank you for that. I was a 24-foot sign, that's huge.
Yeah, not for a menu board, no.
And this sign,
Yes.
given the topography issues being adjacent to Route 7, the site triangles, it's not...
It will
gonna
not
pose
impact that.
an
The
issue?
sign is about 75 feet away from the edge.
Oh, 75,
Of the
all right.
right-of-way. So there's quite a large right-of-way at Route 7. So the sign is already that far back, from the edge of the right-of-way.
Excellent.
So they'll maintain a clear slight triangle at the intersection.
And it's for a
Like,
drive-through lane.
Yeah, and like Mr. Thompson said, instead of the 2 tenant signs, it'll just be a changeable reader board.
Cool. Yeah, we're good.
I'm good.
And I'm sure there'll be illumination, but that's not an issue for us. Can you just speak to that? Okay, so it's just...
It will be illuminated,
Yeah,
yes.
It's 74 feet from the road.
right. All right. Do you have
Thank
any
you.
other
No.
questions? Thank you, sir. All right, we're going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in support of or in opposition to this case, now's your opportunity to do so for VAR 24-196, Hunter's Way. Seeing no one, close the public hearing. Okay.
I'll go back and reiterate a little bit of it.
Okay.
Please see the attached application to review the findings of fact listed, as staff had no comments or modifications. As is customary with signed variance petitions, no recommendation is submitted by staff concerning whether variance relief should be granted. As well, if the Board of Zoning Appeals does grant the applicant variance relief from the referenced sections of the city's planning and zoning code, the new addition shall be subject to the following conditions that are referenced in your packet and discussed earlier.
Okay.
Are you comfortable with the... I don't know if the double drive-through, it sounds as if that's an industry standard. I don't know if,
It's a
it's not really,
hindrance.
it's not a hindrance, it's not really a hardship, because increasing your client's commerce is not...
But making money is a goal of the business.
Right.
And this is a business district, so perhaps that would be the hardship, is to increase, in order to increase business and make more money, they would need to do this.
I mean, I guess if it's the industry standard from a competitive standpoint, you have to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak.
And it could also help, it'll help with the stacking, the queuing of the drive-through, so having 2, it'll affect that as well. So having
To
double drive-through,
optimize traffic flow,
It'll optimize traffic flow as well and reduce stacking.
and it enhances public safety.
It does.
That's where I would target my pain point, would be the traffic flow. So do you guys have the volume to the need for a second lane then? Yeah,
Yes.
great. So then you are creating a potential traffic issue, so maybe in that area. Just trying to help build the case. What is the current pain point? What are they saying?
I like the second finding of fact. The proposed site is approximately 10 feet below the road elevation, and what you're planning with regard to the signage is
Right.
working within the realities of the topography of the site.
Did you want to change the third one at all, or put?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Are you comfortable
I'm
with it?
comfortable with it,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you, sir. So I move to accept the findings of fact for this case, and again, it's, just reference the, I'm sorry,
VAR 24.
VAR 196, Hunter's Way. So we have a motion to accept the findings of fact. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion to accept the findings of fact for VAR 24-196. We have a second by Ms. Cook. How do we vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we have a motion to grant?
I'll vote to grant the variance.
Okay.
With the two conditions.
With what?
With the two conditions that are stated in the packet.
Okay, with the
By
two
the
conditions
city.
stated in the packet, yes.
Yep, I'm second.
Okay, so we have a motion to grant the variance for VAR 24-196 Hunter's Way with the two conditions referenced in the packet.
Yes.
And again, we have a second. How do we vote?
Aye.
Okay. So we have granted your variance request for your case, VAR 24-196 Hunter's Way. The decision that we rendered just now can be appealed to the Circuit Court of Montague County. And please keep in mind that any work that you do, it's a 30-day appeals window, so any work that you do during that appeals window, you do at your sole financial risk. But thank you for coming down this evening. Good luck with your endeavor, and have a good evening. Thank you. Okay, so last case, looks like a three-parter here.
I was wondering how that worked, thank you. I was looking for the other, missing something here.
Do you want, should I read through them, or?
So it's like a combined package, just so you're kind of not repeating the same stuff over again. Just you'll have to vote on each of them like
Separately.
individually,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
But it would be okay to just do one read-through.
Okay, so
stating
I'll
that
I'll reference the suffixes, in the description, I'll just reference the suffixes. All right, so our next case looks like a three-parter, but it's referenced as VAR 24 QUE-RTY and -UIO. It's described as Woodward Development, 11 Hartman Run Road, request by Woodward Development LLC for variance relief from Article 1347.04 of the city's planning and zoning code regarding setbacks. Actually, I'll just read through. City Tax District 14 in the 5th Ward Tax Map 31, parcels B16 in the B2 Service Business District. The second part relates to the city's planning and zoning code regarding number of bicycle storage spaces required. The property description is the same. And then the third part is in regards to zoning regulations relating to buffer yard landscaping requirements. Same property description. Yeah, Mr. Thompson?
Okay. The applicant seeks to build a medical cannabis dispensary at the above referenced location. It will be 2,000 square foot structure. It will be approximately about 19 feet tall. There's the kind of site plan submitted, and you can see where the structure is going to be located. There's currently proposed landscaping on the eastern, like the right, and then bottom side towards the road. There is also just kind of the general layout of where the parking spaces are and the overall site plan, as well as property lines, being the pink line on the left next to another property. This next kind of submitted is just kind of a rendering, not the final look of it, but just to kind of give a reference of what the building will look like. For example, like where it says cookies in the logo, that is not actually the business, that's just kind of showing where those would go.
I was wondering, is this not the Cookies franchise then?
It will technically be, but
Okay.
they're not legally allowed in the state of West Virginia, you're not allowed to use the Cookies full name, that's why they use the C. So they're in charge of all the signage, that's why we said that the signage isn't approved.
Gotcha.
Yep.
They will come back to all you guys on the signage stuff.
Yeah, we'll have to do that again.
I'm just in charge of going and doing it.
Cool.
An additional note that was what requested of us to make an additional ask was for conducting a rear setback allowance of up to 10 feet, being that currently the parcel is multi-zoned, and they're currently going through the process to get it zoned to just be one district, and the rear part of the property is technically zoned residential, causing setback issues of around up to 10 feet, but once they go through the process, which they are currently, to get it rezoned properly to be all business, the variance in regards to that wouldn't be needed anymore, but in this in-between time to have it processed.
And just to clarify that, it's technically legally double zoned. It's been one property for 100 years. So when Morgantown did their zoning, they did it, there's never been residential. It's on the bottom of the corner in Silverton. So you have that cliff, the big wall. So the top of the
The
mountain.
top
That's
is definitely
residential.
residential,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Well, it technically shouldn't be. We've gotten that part approved already, but we're finalizing it because it's all been one property. You can't have a split zone.
Where are you at, where's it at in Saberton? Like, can you give me more of a?
Yeah, so it's the very.
I never-
Used to be the
right
used
Hold on.
across from the bank.
Can you invite him up to the microphone because
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow,
okay. Yeah, thank you.
I'll stay there.
The reason I ask is because have you guys done
He needs
EAs
to
and
state
stuff in
his
that
name
area?
and
Because I know the
address
Seneca glass plant there's a bunch of lead in that soil down there. And I know-
We have everything finalized, good.
And before you continue,
Oh,
can you
yeah,
just state your name and
Woody
the
Woodward,
reference address?
150 Driftwood,
kind of
Driftwood.
restate what you said because that's for the record.
Everything you just.
Yeah, just
Oh, okay.
recap.
Kind of restate
So
that.
basically, what Sailor brought up with zoning, it's been one parcel, we bought it, I think, in 2020. It's been one parcel for 100 years almost. Mauser zoned it before us. So somewhere along the lines, when Morgantown updated their zoning, we somehow got split zoning on that one parcel. As the layout happens, obviously, it's the corner there in between basically Aldi and the West Banco where the road splits into.
Yeah. Yep.
It's the corner. So above the mountain, on top of the mountain, there's a very small sliver that is R1A. There's also some on top that is labeled B2 as it should be. Now, we've went through majority of that process and we got the minor subdivision and zoning approved. We just have to go through the public hearing with the city now. That's our last step of there. So it's approved, but it's not fully official.
Close.
So, once that is completed and
That
reconsolidated,
setback
it's
that
going
he
to
asked
be
for.
zoned as,
B2.
So we don't even.
As B2,
we
that's
have
what I
to approve
thought.
it now,
Yeah.
just so we can continue construction.
Just the one he was talking about of the setback from the back setback, which is not necessarily the variance we're looking for today, but.
For having a reference, because technically as is right now.
Yes.
Then they wouldn't be permitted because of that rear setback, but once this is finalized, then it won't be an
it's,
issue, because it's
right,
all
it's not,
be.
no longer
Now, the
relevant.
three that are within, the three that are in front of you currently, we would need those no matter what the zoning is.
All right.
So the first setback is
Well, that's just part of that.
from the road, because of the way that the property obviously looks big because of the square footage, but most of that is.
It's really not, though.
Yeah, most of that's the mountain and a little bit on top of the mountain.
Yeah.
So in order to make all of this fit with, as you can see,
We should have built to the mountain, that'd be so cool.
So the vegetation that goes through here is, as some of you might been around for, is
there's all the flooding issues in
Yeah.
Saberton. So that's where the city and state put in a big culvert.
Right.
Which obviously we can't build on the culvert, so we've had to shift a lot of things. And with the retaining wall and everything, that's we had to put it there in order to make it work, basically. So the setback is, we kind of have to have the setback approved in order to build anything on that property.
Have you noticed any like debris coming down off that face over the years, any sort of rocks?
No, but that is part of what we're doing with the retaining wall. We're cleaning that whole face up, so the goal would be, in the future, we should never have an issue with that, because it'll all be cleaned up, so.
Okay.
And then technically, it's a new build, right?
Yes.
So are you going to, there is a structure there, you're going to?
It's not, it's almost like a trailer, but
Is it a
yes, that's
trailer?
gone.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's like right here, but yeah, that's all gone.
Okay.
So we've done the tech review, and this is our last step for the variances that need to be done. And because of the square footage of the property is why some of these variances exist, like the bike storage, which,
Oh, that's weird, yeah.
well, I understand that it's for development and a residential or a big community, but not for a 2,000 square foot building.
Yeah. But you're also on the rate on the rails to trails too. Does that have anything to do with the bike?
No, it was strictly just because of the square footage of the area of the land.
Yeah, the code just references it for like a major new development for, it's kind of
They're
tied
thinking
in
we're
with
building
the,
Aldi when we're not.
with the parking standards, it's tied into that.
But after you
for-
leave your
for
shop, you're gonna wanna go to Aldi's.
We're willing to help, like, I would gladly, we've discussed it with them and Ricky, like, I don't have an issue putting a bike rack. I just can't do everything that is needed all at once.
Right.
If we can get that variance, I promise you, I'll make sure it's available.
When's the proposed end of construction?
And,
Yeah.
well, I've been working on the zoning and permitting now for a year and a half, so whenever that happens, we will get, hopefully it won't be more than 6 or 8 months.
So what's the issue with the landscaping that,
So as you can see with our map up here, this is an existing structure on the property.
it's a little bit of a glare,
That
but,
would be the Ellie's Cafe. And so basically the line here is the end of, it's basically concrete
Okay.
all the way over. So with the way that we've had to shift the building with all the other mandates of the fire marshal needing the 20-foot ingress, egress, et cetera, we've had to continue to shift the building. And we're just going to end up losing parking space over there for kind of seemingly something that parking would be a large priority for that business and future business. And we've added additional landscaping elsewhere to kind of basically do a swap. Like, I'm willing to make it look really pretty, and I agree, but I would like not to lose parking because of it. It's kind of-
But that other business is also yours, like, they're both co-owned? Is that-
Well, I won't own this one, I'm building this one,
Oh,
but yes.
but yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'm asking.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. So effectively, they would be sharing parking between
so
both
there's enough
establishments?
parking?
Yeah, so.
Unfortunately, I would love to add more, but I covered a lot.
Thank you for asking that question.
Yeah, to speak to that, any considerations of another parcel wouldn't be relevant to our requirements for this, at least it hasn't been communicated previously that like that's needed, but for their parking, yeah, the parking spaces there, shown there, for my knowledge, are substantial enough to be what's needed. Considerations of a neighboring property isn't relevant for parking or standards like that, even if currently it's kind of both owned.
Yeah.
The end result will be that this has to work on its own, that
Right.
has to work on its own.
No, but given the size of the site, in proportion to the size of the proposed building, you don't foresee any parking issues?
So what,
Or there will be adequate parking?
I'm not allowed to have more parking
Yeah.
based
for
on the code.
Those
I
there, there's a certain amount that he would need to get, and it's
And
being
he's got
provided
it.
on that right side. So the left is now just kind of that drive aisle around the building.
Right.
And, yeah, so there isn't any parking needed over there.
Right.
For the size of the building and the number of, like, employees and things for those considerations, the
Yeah.
parking that there is
Is more than
is
adequate.
adequate.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, excellent.
oh, okay, but, so what about this, so what
The
about?
buffer is basically for future use and I would call it basically the ease of the property. Now, because the property is so small and we've had so many hindrances, the buffer of the landscaping, I think, is just taking away from some of the use of the property when the landscaping buffering is for beautification, which I full
Well, that's not always what, it's also to help the flow of traffic without people being hindered and harmed.
Yeah, no, there'll be a
So-
curve, there's a full curve here, yes, going all the way around. So the traffic flow, you can never get in and out of the drive lane. So there'll be no issues on the traffic flow of things here, if that's what your question was.
Well, traffic flow and, yeah. Well, I don't recall getting to look at this property, but, I mean, we do want our town to look good, too, we don't.
Exactly, yeah, that's why we've mentioned, we've added additional landscaping that exceeds the parameters that were set forth. That is the only thing that,
So your landscaping's all to that side of the property?
yes, and on our updated ones, we have landscaping here, and we're going to add landscaping here as well, with the ability to kind of, like we said, kind of make sure it looks as good as we can. That's the goal.
Okay. And Sailor, for my own help here, what are the 3 variances that they are requesting?
Based on the conditions that were listed, the applicant is requesting these 3 separate variances. The first one being an extension of the maximum setback, variance 24-200, that's in reference to the front, and then this new recent, like the 10 feet rear one.
Yeah.
The second one being variance 24-201, variance relief for landscaping on the western property side, which is the side with the other adjacent parcel.
So suggesting to take away from some of the landscaping, or use it differently, or how does the variance, what is the
It's
adjustment?
basically like, the variance would be, we don't have to put it.
Yeah,
The code states I have to put it here, a 4-foot buffer. Now,
Correct.
I don't technically need any over here, which we've added. We're
Okay.
going to add some here, but if I end up having to put it here, I'm gonna have to do a lot of work, and it's gonna take away some space from either.
From the next project, so what you're saying is that you're doing the same thing just over here, and since this property is part of the same,
Yeah, we were basically trying to, I understand the reason the code is there is because we want it to look better and have a beautification effect.
kind of
which
foot
I
off the
support.
rug on one end and put it on the other side.
Yeah, and we're willing to do additional, but if I could get a variance on that, it would help me as the flow of the entire property is one.
Okay.
Yeah,
But I agree with Heidi that we want
But
everything
as he
to
said,
look
that doesn't.
Yeah, for the actual,
We want a nice landscape.
Yeah, but what actually is, so there's another building over there, which you pointed out, what is there, just a curb there? When you say 4 foot, is that 4 foot of bushes? Does that have to be 4 foot of bushes, or what does it have to be? Because is it going to affect, like I said, is it going to affect, usually those buffers, I know they're made for beautification, but they're also made for traffic flow, to keep it,
In the area it should be kept in, yeah.
right,
So
so,
around this, there'll be a very thick curb, like an 8-inch curb. So then, if you're ever in this driveway, and there's no way to get anywhere else, you have to go through the driveway. So that would be considered our buffer for what we would think the landscape buffer is for, of keeping
Okay.
you where you're supposed to be.
So there's no flow between the
There will
properties?
be no flow between
Between
the
the
two
properties.
properties.
His and between
Exactly.
here and
There will be no flow between this property and that property.
okay, so you have to go out to the road.
Yes, you would have to, you'd have to complete the drive aisle,
And that's kind of,
exit, and go.
and.
That's how it is
kinda-
currently.
Yeah, that's kind of
Because there's
how
a
it is
fence.
currently right now.
There's one fence
Right.
through it now, but yeah.
There is-
Sorry, no,
There isn't flow between
There
the
is
2
not,
lots
no.
right now.
Would there be a continuation of the existing landscaping that is like by the road across to the next property, like that's on the border of?
Just tell me where.
Just to the left, like continue left, like,
That would-
right.
No, it would stop here.
Oh, okay.
Because all this is currently the concrete that we were discussing before. So,
Gotcha, okay.
Right.
Like we said, we're going to add some over here, and we'll more than happy to add some here as long as we had to get approval from the DOH.
Okay. I'm tracking it.
Okay, well, he said he's going to add some more there. I want that put in the thing, and he said he's going to put a bike rack in, as long as we grant the variance tonight, right, or whatever?
But, so the way the variance works is it has to be, I don't want to miscite the code, but it's basically has to be within certain limits of the building and whatever, like I'll gladly.
oh, for, like, if you were to add a bike rack, yeah, I mean, to
so,
just
Like,
explain.
I'll
what's-
have a bike rack on property, I just can't
Well,
necessarily
we have
have it.
to, with Heidi's point, I think we'll add it to the requirements, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, per what they're asking for, and then you
Is no
can
bike
work
rack.
with that. Yeah, the variance relief in regards to the bike rack being 136504Q, that's just. it's-
Also, that's
it's like a-
eliminated.
Yeah, it's like a yes or no.
Okay.
If they need a bike rack, long-term bike rack storage, or if they don't, they're requesting that they just don't provide it at all.
Okay.
That's what that, am I understanding
Because
that
it-
correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the way the storage is written in the code, I'd have to have like an enclosed bike rack storage in a 2,100 square foot building.
So it's dangerous for us to ask to include it, because then it's like you have.
That's my point.
Okay,
I don't, off the record, I promise you there'll be one, but I can't be,
A shell building for it.
I was thinking
yeah,
about
I
one of
can't
those
build,
racks
I
where you
can't
see
build
the-
a 100 square foot building
Yeah.
for long-term
Bike
storage.
storage.
like
Yeah,
that.
I gotcha.
As well as an additional comment in regards to the landscaping request of moving it elsewhere, that's more of a, like, just a nice judgment, or maybe conditionally, but for the variance request,
Yes.
it's either
A yes
they
or no.
put shrubbery and, they plant it, or they don't. It's not we can move it somewhere else to make up
Gotcha.
for
So
it
we're
kind of thing.
approving
It's-
the absence of.
Yeah, from
Yeah,
that
it's
Some on the
line,
western side.
yeah,
Yeah.
from
Yep.
the left side over to
Toward
the
the other
property
building.
line.
And for our own peace of mind, we've been described it's going to happen,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, basically, if I'm a bad human and you say yes, and I don't do anything I'm telling you to do, I agree, but that would be never my objective.
What we have to
As
do.
a really
Well,
test stuff. we've
I
done
am
nothing, try to
okay
work
with it.
everybody.
Yeah, okay.
But,
Thank you for your clarification.
yeah, thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Okay.
You guys-
We're good for now. Open the public hearing for, well, it's a single case, but.
Nobody's
just,
here.
Yeah, anyone wishing to speak in support of or in
Ricky?
opposition?
No?
Now's your chance, Mr. Yeager. Seeing no one, we're going to close the public hearing. So we have, let's go ahead. Yeah, thanks for the findings of fact.
Yeah.
Very comprehensive.
Very comprehensive, yeah.
Thorough.
The drawings are good, too. I mean, I understand his hardship. The zoning is definitely the bigger part of this issue, right? That's representing the most of the hardship.
Yeah, just the whole, especially the,
I was just going to say in reference to like the setback issue.
especially the rear one, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And having, you're seeking to develop this in the neighborhood of the culvert, and that's, a design challenge.
The more businesses we can get in Saberton, is good.
Yes.
I mean, off the record and separately, is there anything being done about the climbing gym that went under?
I'm not familiar
Yeah, we're not.
with it, so
Really?
after the meeting. if
Okay.
you want, yeah.
Okay. Because that was a beautiful building and nothing's being done there.
Phenomenal building.
Yeah.
I wish they'd lower the price.
Yeah, I've heard the same.
That's why it's, yeah.
I keep looking at it, but man, that's a steep thing.
It is steep.
Are we comfortable with at least the first set of
Yeah,
findings of fact?
yeah, I think so.
It's not really paginated, but the first set of findings of fact for VAR 24-QUE regarding the setbacks, front and rear. I make a motion to accept the findings of fact
I'll second that.
for that first portion of the variance. So we have a motion to accept the findings of fact, seconded by Mr. DeWitt. How do we vote?
Aye.
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 We need separate motions, right, for each?
Yeah, just
Yeah,
do
if
the
you want to
variance,
just do
yeah.
findings of fact and then
And variance, yeah.
relief, and then just.
Yep, yep.
So
right.
I'm going to make a motion to grant the requested variance regarding the setback issue.
With
for
the
VA
conditions.
With the conditions for VAR 24-QUE. Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a second by Ms. Cook. For this specific variance, how do we vote?
Aye.
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 So we're unanimous on that variance. Moving on to the next set of findings of fact
Bicycle storage.
regarding, the bicycle storage. Well,
Where does this requirement come from? Do we know?
Just old, isn't it old?
If you look on your residence, like fifth page, the determined number of spaces required is the variance for.
But I haven't seen anything else in Morgantown that has some huge.
I've never heard of
bike
anybody
storage,
happen to
so
have
it
that.
Like
wasn't-
those, just like those type of bike rack storage places.
But did you
It's not
do-
like a giant.
But who has one in Morgantown to compare it to?
Yeah, never heard of it. either.
I've
We've
recently
not-
moved, so I'm not super familiar
Okay.
with everywhere
I've been here
around.
my whole
but-
life, and I've never seen one, so I'm just curious.
Yeah, so if you read it, it's not just short-term, it's long-term bike storage.
Oh,
That's the problem. It's-
Okay.
So if you read
Well, then-
the minimum requirements of long-term.
It's the mixed-use development.
is that why? Oh, okay.
Yeah, like because of the size of our square footage of the land,
Mhm.
they assume we're developing it, which we are, but not in that term, obviously.
Right. Okay, well, I'll move to accept the finding of facts for VAR 24 RTY.
I'll second.
Right, so we have a motion to accept the findings of fact regarding the bike storage portion of this, seconded by Ms. Cook. How do we vote?
Aye.
Aye. So we've accepted the findings of fact for VAR 24-RTY regarding the number of bicycle storage spaces required. I move to grant this specific variance.
I second.
Okay, so we have a motion to grant the variance for VAR 24-RTY regarding bicycle storage requirements. How do we vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So we've granted that specific variance, and then we have one more. The last one is referenced as VAR 24-UIO, and this is in regards to buffer yard landscaping requirements. Let's see. Are there separate findings of fact? I don't see those referenced
Yeah, I
in
don't
the
see 'em either.
packet. Do we need to speak to that?
Yeah, the findings of fact are separated out.
Where are they
in-
at? I don't see them. Not seeing them. In here.
On the last two pages of the findings of fact.
Yeah, variance 25001 is findings of fact for these. And it wasn't, they didn't have it
Oh,
in by the
okay.
legal time that we needed to get that out. So the numbered ones aren't ordered.
Yeah, but it says right here, this is talking about bike racks.
Yeah, on the last two pages, it seems
Cyclists.
to be referencing the
Spirit
bike
of the
rack
ordinance,
storage.
right-of-way
Variance
grant,
percent
yeah.
Storage requirements,
So
but
they got
not.
them in wrong or
It
something.
might have been flipped around.
It
You have them
does.
in yours? I'd like to
Yeah.
see them.
Mine goes in order of...
I think you're right, I think it's flipped. I think it's flipped.
Are they in there
I think
and
it's
they're flipped?
Oh, is that what it
Wait,
is?
Okay.
Oh.
Hold on, yeah.
the case.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
Okay, which page? Or,
Um,
I mean, which,
Like the last two, before that,
oh, the last two.
or the last one.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not.
This one?
Yeah, you.
Wait a minute.
Yeah,
it's-
front landscaping,
it's right
front
here.
landscaping in front, yeah.
So,
You guys want to make one more statement on
If you come up to
yes,
the
please.
podium.
So it's.
Okay,
the
landscaping, I
shift,
See
see.
now?
Yep.
Okay.
With the shifting that we've had to do over the last couple of months, the other thing on the landscaping, our drainage here, they connect to that culvert. If we end up going that way, it would be in a hindrance of that drainage as well, so I just wanted to point that out before you guys.
So that's a hardship, then. It creates an issue for the city, or not the city, or
For
for MUB.
For the applicant.
Yeah, for the applicant.
Yeah, so you're having to design your landscaping and work around the hindrance presented by the
I
culvert.
promise you, it'll be up to a standard, as you can see by the building. I'm
Yeah.
not putting up a metal shut building.
Yeah, your drawings are also pretty
Legally,
nice.
I'm trying to build something very nice.
Yeah.
The goal is basically to build a Starbucks, but obviously that's not the product we're selling. That's my goal, so.
I mean, caffeine is a drug.
I could also read off the conditions if that would, some of that, I didn't get to read off the conditions earlier, so...
That'd be good.
Yeah, let's do that.
Appreciate it.
The Board of Zoning Appeal grants the applicant variance relief from the requested sections of the city's planning and zoning code. The new construction shall be subject to the following conditions. an updated and detailed plan with information regarding dumpster screening, lighting plan, sidewalk, and principal structure building materials made available for review and approval by the Development Services Department staff. The second condition being areas where landscaping and parking meet will need to be properly buffered to prevent vehicles from damaging the landscape. A detailed plan shall be made available for review and approval by the Development Services Department staff. And then the final condition is any other modifications or changes to the site plan shall be compliant with the city's code, or the applicant shall seek further variance relief from the Board of Zoning Appeals. So those are our three conditions.
How many of those were there?
Three.
Okay.
And
So
with
those are
regard
ones
to
that were
the,
referenced.
Yes.
and with regard to the landscaping, the conditions that you just referenced have an impact on the final
And the buffering thing is the.
outcome.
They would have to approve whatever we put up, that way the buffering is
Good.
sufficient.
Good,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, for areas that are landscaped, yeah, there'd have to be like a curb or those like bumper, something to differentiate it between just
Perfect.
grass and like asphalt or
Perfect.
concrete or whatever.
Perfect.
There would have to be a sufficient, curb between them.
Right.
So a vehicle couldn't, drive over them.
That's what we were
or,
talking about
like,
before.
Bump into
Exactly.
it or.
Perfect, perfect.
if Somebody.
I see what you're
And
getting
that-
at, and I agree.
Right, and that relates to, again, to traffic flow and optimizing traffic flow
And safety.
and enhancing public safety. All right, I make a motion to accept the findings of fact with respect to the landscaping requirements referenced as VAR 24-UIO,
I second.
subject to the three conditions that Mr. Thompson just referenced or reviewed for us. Do we have a second?
I second.
Ms. Cook has seconded. How do we vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we voted to accept the findings of fact for this case, VAR, or this part of the case, VAR 24-UIO.
So I move we grant the variance with the noted, and that's what I said earlier in the motion, please note that I was thinking these just pertain to the first one, but
Yeah.
the three conditions stated in the packet for the planning.
Really good. I will second that motion.
How do we vote?
Aye.
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 So we have granted your requested variance for the three parts, or the three variances regarding, let's see, setbacks and the bike storage requirement and also the landscaping.
Yep.
So you will receive written notification from planning 7 to 10 business days. Please keep in mind, decisions rendered by this board are subject or can be appealed to the Circuit Court of Montague County, and any work that you do during that generally 30-day appeals window, you do your sole financial risk. But thank you for coming down this evening. Good luck with your endeavor.
Appreciate it. Stay warm.
You too. Take care. Take care. Take care. Right, do we have announcements?
Yeah, so announcements for the BZA. As of right now, there's no variances or, to my knowledge, conditional uses, anything to be presented to the board in February, so.
Everyone's hibernating.
So, as of right now, nothing in February, and potentially in March, but you'll find that out depending on what comes in, but that's our only announcement.
I have to get re-interviewed at some point, and I'm on some travel here in the next couple weeks, so I have to figure out how to get that done.
Okay, good luck with it.
Yeah.
For
For
the
this,
city council?
Or by city council for BZA. But my term just ended,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Did it already?
Yeah, right.
Usually they'll just.
But
Will
that
they
doesn't
just
include-
reach out to,
Yeah. Can this be a phone
Yeah,
interview?
we're working, our clerk is in contact and talking and related to that, so.
Can we do a phone interview, or do I have to come in person?
From what I've understood, it's like an in-person
Gotcha,
thing.
that's what it seemed
I would
like.
reach out to the clerk.
The last one
and
was on
talk.
January 6th, or was it January 6th, whenever we had that horrible snowstorm show up, so there was nobody coming down for that, so.
I'd reach out to the, what is
Heather?
it, it is city clerk,
City
isn't it?
council, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
I'd reach out to city clerk and
Okay.
talk to her.
I keep messaging, they suggested the 21st, and I leave on the 20th, so it's unfortunate.
Question. So I was supposed to, I was going to bring my parking permit down tonight.
Oh,
That
yeah.
form, and I forgot it.
Oh, no.
So what do we do
Are we
about it?
renewing that? I didn't get,
My sister says 24 on it outside. I hung it up.
Yeah, I hung it up. They'll take it usually.
Yeah, we can talk to the city clerk's office and we're going to get you passes.
Okay.
Okay, I'm part of that. I need a new one too.
Would we like to conclude the meeting?
Yes.
yes, let's go ahead
I
and
move
make
we
a
adjourn.
motion
I will
to
second
adjourn,
Perfect.
and we are so adjourned. Just wait a moment here.